The extreme weather events we're seeing at the moment are affecting the way nature is behaving. So oak trees, for example, the leaves are appearing a month earlier than they were in the 1950s, and snowdrops, the flowers are appearing 2 months earlier than the 1950s. Now, Hayley, what kind of impact is the weather having on all kinds of flowers, plants, trees?
So the examples you gave are really lovely, and they're examples that that we talk about a bit here at the garden. So on the face of it, yep, an oak tree is coming into leaf a month earlier than expected. Okay, that's kind of interesting, but actually that has a massive impact. If you think about, a single oak tree can sustain nearly 300 other species of insects and other wildlife. So if those insects and other wildlife are expecting the leaves at a certain time of year, the acorns at a different time of year for their food, for habitat, etc., and it's not there, that has an influence on all of those other species that are relying on that oak tree. And we can take that a step further and think about plants that are important to us. So if we think about crop plants, if the pollinators are now mismatched with the timing of flowering of important crop plants, we're going to see a reduction in food availability.
And very fast changes as well, aren't they? We're by this beautiful redwood tree. You said it's the first one grown outside of California, and this is part of your climate change trail here, isn't it? Why have you picked the redwood? What's significant about this tree and climate change?
So this particular redwood in the garden, we did some calculations on it as part of the climate change trail. So we know that this tree has captured within it the equivalent amount of carbon as would be found in nearly 50 tonnes of carbon dioxide. So that's really hard to kind of visualise. So we could think of it as it's the equivalent of 8 people flying economy from London to Sydney and back.
Wow. But you were saying that you couldn't plant enough trees in the UK to basically obviate all the carbon that's being created.
No, I mean, if you think, obviously that's those 8 return flights that we've just talked about. This tree has taken 150 years to achieve that. We won't be able to grow enough trees in the UK to offset all that carbon. So we need to be thinking, when we're thinking about climate change, of all the other things that are important, reducing our reliance on fossil fuels, etc.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much for joining us today. It was 38 degrees in the garden yesterday's reading, and we haven't got to today's yet, which they take at 10 o'clock tomorrow, if you can follow that. So the following day we find out how hot it was today, but you can see the changes that all of this is bringing about in nature.